Start recording. Yeah, so Chris, man, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me, bro. You know, well, as I was doing research, I never really got to know what your real. Do you even have a Glover name, bro? Because it's like
Not really.
everyone refers to you as Iteen, no?
Yeah, pretty much. They use my last name. Some people
Yeah,
call me Daddy.
yeah, I seen that. I was like, wait, is that real? But
Yeah.
no, I love that, bro. That's really, really unique. And would you mind kind of introducing yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name's Chris Iteen. I am. I have been gloving for probably like I don't know, over 10 years now.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I am originally from the Chicago gloving community, but I've traveled pretty much the entire country. I've met up with people in Florida, California, uh, Wisconsin, Minnesota,
Yeah.
California, just everywhere. I've even met people out in Hawaii. Um, and I have been a part of quite a few teams. Whether that be Void or TMS or um, there was this team in Chicago that I used to be a part of. Well, like a captain of. It was called Flow Monsters.
Yeah.
I was one of the original members of TLNT.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like one of the first 10 members. I think was I don't know if you know like the state of that team, but they have like hundreds of members or did at one
Yeah.
point.
That's
So
crazy,
that was
bro.
pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a
Um, yeah, I appreciate you having me on here too, by the way. It's pretty exciting to be here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you had reached out to me in regards to kind of just clarifying some of the things from the old from the Project Trails video that I did with 30K. And I really appreciate you doing that because I firmly believe that no one person has the full picture. No one person has a
Yeah.
full picture. Everyone has, their own views, their own opinions. And so figuring out the truth of what has happened, it'll come from multiple stories, right? And
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And there's no this isn't like saying that Richard was wrong, you know what I mean? But like as far as some of the details, I think, like he just wasn't there for
yeah,
them. Like
absolutely.
I in Chicago, I was hosting a lot of the competitions. I was really involved with most of the teams. So it was kind of just, like I think he just had like a lack of information, a lack of exposure to a lot of
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. So, 10 plus years, maybe you want to start from like when you can we start from when you first started? What was that like? Because the Chicago scene from when I had spoken to 30K, right? He seemed like he had a very, how do you say, he had a mentor, and like it didn't, from my point of view, it seemed like there was more, right? And that's information that he never really was
exactly,
able to share.
exactly.
So it's kind of like, it's kind of exciting, listening to this whole thing, because it's like, okay, there's that side, and then there's like probably other people sporadically throughout Chicago that are doing something that may have a complete story. So you mind like sharing that side, or your side rather?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind at all.
Let's go.
So I had a mentor. Um, it's kind of a touchy subject. I know that 30K kind of touched on it, but I'm just gonna like be as honest as I can and kind of give credit where credit is due. This isn't, an indication of who this person is as a person, but
Yeah.
this guy's name is Kaloshi. He was uh he was my mentor, and he kind of was a mentor of an entire suburban community outside of Chicago. Um, and from him spawned, this entire community of the Aurora community, which is right outside of Chicago. It's the second biggest city. And we would go out to, like underground raves, big shows together all the time. And eventually it just kind of like piqued my interest. I was like, dude, that looks like so much fun. I'm standing around feeling awkward. I can't dance. You know what I mean? I'm 6'7". So like if I dance, it's a
What?
danger to everybody around me. Yeah.
Whoa! Wow, dude, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yep. So like I got into it. I loved it. I wasn't great at first, but gloving wasn't really all that much at first. Like there wasn't a whole lot of concepts besides like figure eights, liquid and like just like the basic dials and stuff. So
What year was
I
this?
took
Sorry
like
to cut you off. What year was this when
it
Floshi?
was like 2012, 13, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so we started around the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so there wasn't a whole lot of like complexity to the movement,
It was
back
starting to
then. It
come.
was
Yeah,
just
it
like
was really starting to come at that
exactly,
point. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
And so I mean, coming into that around then, it kind of got easy because you had your flails, your circle move, your figure eights, and just basic tech. Um, and for those first couple of years, it was just like something to do at raves, something
Right.
to kind of grind with my friends because my friends were really into it. We were also skaters, you know what I mean? So like a lot of the
Yes.
tricks and things like that, it was like I want to get better than him at this or
Yeah.
this or this style. And so like there was there was quite a few of us around, there was probably like 10, 15 of us
Mhm.
that all gloved and all had different styles, and we had our own meetups, our own, like, and we interacted with the Chicago community pretty well too. So like we were kind of connected with Team Lit, and we knew Folly, we knew Jest, and the whole TLNT crew, like the Chicago chapter. We were all kind of invited to be part of that Chicago chapter for TLNT.
Mhm.
Um, and that was like the first like 10, 15 turtles. It was like
Yeah.
some of the people out from Aurora, some of the people from Chicago, and then it was like Jest and Folly and Indy, which was one of the other captains. I don't know if he still is or not.
Do you okay? So that's really interesting. I don't really know too much about TLNT and its origins. Did TLNT um did it originate from? Was its origins just purely like there were chapters from the very beginning? It wasn't like it started from this area and then it expanded. Did it just start off?
That's pretty much how it worked. It
Yeah,
kind of was in one region and just kind of expanded, but the
I
whole
see.
idea was for it to be an inclusive team,
Yeah,
like a
absolutely.
place for everybody.
Yeah, I get it.
And it really just started like in the Chicago area. I know that Indy and Folly both were from Indiana, and they used to frequent Chicago.
Oh, okay. Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
Hmm.
Okay, so yeah, to 2012. Yeah, I know the whole Foshi story that 30K mentioned, but okay, that's really interesting. So yeah, there's
Hmm.
so would you say that the Chicago scene started from like skaters?
I wouldn't say everybody was a skater. Like Team Lit was also a thing, and I'm not familiar with like who they are as people as much as like what their
Yeah,
hobbies were outside of that. Like I know Dor does like rock climbing, John Heater is like works on iron and
yeah.
things like that. But as far as like their hobbies, I'm not too sure. But they were like an integral part of the Chicago community. There was another team called AOL, Alchemists of Light. I don't even think they exist anymore.
I seen that.
Um, I'm, yeah, and that's like kind of par for the course. I feel like with the gloving community, like some teams just absolutely disappear and fall
Absolutely.
off. But there was my team, which was Flow Monsters, and we it was like between Lit and Flow Monsters that really like kind of took the charge on throwing competitions, and there was like individual people here and there that would throw competitions, but for a long period of time there was not very much going on in Chicago outside of those two teams
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So basically, Team Lit and Flow Monsters were basically the teams running the Chicago scene where it comes competition.
for
What
a
about?
while, and then there was like, oh yeah, absolutely, sorry, I didn't mean
No, no, no worries. So were there was it mostly hosting competitions or because I remember the term lit backs, right? It was were both
yeah,
teams hosting like throwback not throwbacks kickbacks and competitions kickbacks as well.
yeah, absolutely. So um that was kind of the foundation of everything, was the consistent kickbacks. We wanted to have as many
Yeah.
kickbacks as we could,
Yeah.
and then throw in competitions every couple of months. You
Right.
know what I mean? So that way we could keep up engagement, keep people coming from out of state. I mean, like there was like we would fly. Like there was one time where myself, Loshi, and another person flew out, yeah, like members of PM,
Wow.
and we like paid for their tickets, helped them with their
What?
lodging, like yeah. And the whole point, you know, is just to generate like a, I don't know, like a huge sense of excitement within the gloving community out in the Midwest, because you know the we don't get to see things like that. You know, like my exposure to being able to like trade with Surge or Team Money, or you know, like going and meeting Krusty or Jest or all these people, like that was kind of a dream for a lot of the people that you
Yeah.
know like haven't traveled outside of Chicago. So we wanted to bring that here, and it worked. Like we had probably the biggest kickback that's ever happened in this area. You know, we filled out an entire building, like hundreds of people came out. It's huge.
Wow. Who'd you guys fly out?
Yeah, it was J Bake, Lullaby, um, Gambit, Panda. I think that's it. If I'm forgetting somebody, I
What?
feel
You
rude,
guys
but I
flew
think that's
out
it.
4 guys? That's
Yeah.
crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
And you said 100 people. Was that the apartment
At
story?
least. At least.
At least. Was that the apartment?
Uh, no. So it was Vic's Vape Shop. I don't know if you ever saw like Vic's Vapes SNLs. Were you a
No.
part of the community leader program back when Amazing was doing it?
I was, but I was never, we had another GGN leader, Royce Okazaki, aka Schematics. He was basically in
Yeah.
charge of everything. I was just a GGN leader because I think they wanted two, and I was like, who else better than I at the time, right? So, like, yeah, I never really paid
Yeah,
attention.
for sure.
Yeah.
But so I was in that, and you know we were trying to compete, and like
Yeah.
at a certain point, the suburbs were doing better than pretty much like 95% of the community, the
Yeah.
suburbs of Chicago, because of how much we were trying to invest into this. Like, I got a business license and I started doing wholesale for Amazing. Even.
Yo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't there a Chicago store? Am I getting that?
There was, but we also had our own store out in the suburbs because of my business license.
Oh, I see. I see. Wow.
Yeah, so that store came around pretty late into things.
Yeah.
I mean, it was probably like 2015, 2016
Yeah.
where they
Yeah.
made an appearance, and it was like a single hallway. There was
Mm.
like it was the smallest space you could possibly imagine. And to me, like that was just a terrible idea for an Amazing store, because you know, like a huge part of being like tied to gloving is having those events. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna make
Yes.
the most of your money. You
How
know,
many
so
how many
and
people
you
would
don't
show
have
up?
that.
How many people would show up to those things? To the store.
The
Sorry.
Amazing, yeah.
The one that you had. Yeah.
No, the one that we had. I mean, depending on the night, we never had less than like 20 people.
Wow.
Yeah,
Dude, that sounds I
yeah.
mean,
We had.
that sounds great. Sorry. We got a little bit
No,
of
yeah,
latency going on. But like that sounds really great. Like you're putting numbers like 100 plus people for a kick for a big kickback. That's freaking a dream, man. And then you're saying not less than 20 people on a good day for at least Hawaii sessions. We would get 15 people. So like wow. That really changes my perspective on how many Glovers were actually present on that side of the country for gloving.
it wasn't all Glovers though. So like
I see.
because because of how tied in we were with, and I'm saying we as in you know like me and my mentor, we're tied in with the electronic music community and other flow arts communities.
Yeah,
We invited everybody. You know what I mean?
I
Like it was
see.
just a big party. You know, like people
Yeah,
that didn't glove came, had a great time. Um, it was just you know we had this giant vape shop rented out, not even rented out. We didn't have to rent it out. We just worked with this guy. He got some of our sales profits
makes sense.
from the gear,
Yeah,
and we ended up, you know, just collaborating on this, and it was just a like big open space because he had a pool table, so we would just move the pool table, and like I don't know, man, it was awesome. It was awesome. It was like the heyday for gloving.
yeah. That sounds really. It sounds like a great time. Honestly, 2015, 2016, I always considered to be kind of like the peak of gloving, I mean, in terms of events, because everyone's just popping off. So like, so question about the GGN. So you were the official GGN leader for Chicago. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so what? How many? Like, okay, how can I phrase this? How long did that the whole GGN thing last for you guys? Because I remember speaking to 30K and things were happening up until COVID.
I mean, as far as GGN goes, we went until that program ended, but that program didn't go until COVID.
Yeah,
Like,
it
I'm
ended
pretty
at
sure that
COVID because I don't
no, they
remember.
disbanded that program a while ago. I'm pretty sure. Like,
Yeah,
I'm thinking like 16, 17. It didn't go that
mm,
long because
yeah,
they were giving out a lot of free stuff, and I mean, Amazing was kind of dying out at that point, you know.
yeah. Right, right, right. So that was a good. So okay, so after the
Two,
G
three
after
years.
GGN, yeah, after GGN died, that was like a good 2 3 years of care packages or whatnot, or or maybe 2 years
Hmm.
rather. So like,
Yeah.
what was the scene like after that?
Um, we did our best to keep it alive, you know, but without the support from Amazing, it
Yeah.
kind of got hard. You know, like
Hmm.
we started having to like dip into our own pockets to give things away. I mean, I feel like even just in general, like the interest in gloving kind of tapered off
Hmm.
after a little bit. You know, like it wasn't. I don't know, and it kind of goes back and forth, back and forth. Well, I feel like that kind of has a lot to do with like the OG's participation and things, you know.
Right.
But I feel like we've gone through a lot of lulls, especially in the Chicago community. Um there was some drama that happened, and we had to basically like rebuild our community from scratch. You know, like I had started it was like a Chicago gloving community group with a couple of other people, and after some stuff happened, we had to like delete that group, and I left Flow Monsters and tried to start another team and like keep things going. But because of how integral that Flow Monsters team was to just the community in general around here, it was really hard to keep anything going. You know, like
Yeah.
Lit probably still had some stuff going. There was some individual people throwing kickbacks, like Zach Stafford was awesome for doing that. That was the apartment that uh, 30K was
Oh.
talking about.
Yeah.
And then there was like a small team that I had started like 70 miles away from Chicago that was like throwing kickbacks and inviting people to sessions and stuff like that, but it never really like went anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just dead now from like what I've gathered. They don't really have a whole lot of events. They're doing like meetups here and there. Like 30K is trying his hardest to like revive that community, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it went downhill fast. Like there was just a bunch going on, and then like a year later, it was
Okay. I have to ask the question, man. Like, what happened?
nothing.
Like, what? It sounds, I can see it. Like when you're in your
Mm.
expression, man. Like,
Yeah,
I knew from like the past stories, when we were when I was talking with 30K, it seemed like I didn't realize that it was an event that destroyed the community. It seems like,
yeah, pretty much.
wow.
I mean, you know, like I don't like taking credit or like jerking myself off too hard or anything, but like I was a pretty integral part of keeping the community together. I
Okay,
was
yeah.
throwing events, like I was paying for stuff,
Yeah.
you know, and we had Materia, we had Rob, and we had like a few other people that were doing it, but you know, like they all, you know, didn't have the free time that I did because I've been self-employed for a very long time.
I understand
Um,
that. So
yeah,
much, yeah.
and so it's like once I took a step back and Flow Monsters and all of the basically the suburbs like got disconnected. I just, you know, like Chicago was left to kind of pick up the pieces, and they haven't really done that much. But what had happened was I was approached by a couple of the admins of the group that I had started and told me that one of the people that had started the group with me was basically like had committed a couple acts of sexual assault.
I
and I it was that dude was like my best friend, you know. So I was basically given the option of like, hey, like we're gonna do this without you, or you can come with us. You know, we're gonna like delete this group, start a new group, like. And I was like, you know, like I can't reasonably side with this guy if this is true. So I took a stance. You know, I said a bunch of stuff, you know, publicly because I was kind of trying to denounce this guy for what he had done, and we had just went our separate ways, you know, and it put a wedge between myself and pretty much all of the members on that team. And I don't know, it just nothing really ever like came from that after. It was just everything died.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to just put myself in the whole situation on what if some ex member did this act and they were a founding member of the community. I could see why that would be just so detrimental to everything, and it would make everyone so
Yeah.
confused. And you have to, you kind of almost have to take a stand and do like what's right. And then like not only that, but then everyone is, the motivation is may decline, and then it's kind of just confusing. Like I can kind of just see the whole chaos of.
Well, I feel like we had kind of been used to this because we also have Kenneth here,
Yeah, and
you know.
I was just
But
thinking
Kenneth
about that.
wasn't an integral part of the community.
Oh,
You know
I
what I mean?
see.
Like Kenneth wasn't. So it was like once that happened, somebody that was like promoting for our events and inviting people and keeping in touch with people, you know, like this guy is an incredible glover on top of just being the leader of the community. So like once
Yeah,
that was removed and he wasn't allowed, that meant that like a lot of the people that surrounded him wanted nothing to do with the events. You know what I mean? And it just kind of like snowballed, you know, and you can only have the same people coming out to the event so many times before you get sick of going to those events yourself,
yeah.
you know.
Dang. Okay, okay. So I kind of want to, maybe you may not have. I said this last time with 30K. So
Mhm.
lit seems to be. I mean, yeah, lit. You said was an integral part of the community. Were they
Absolutely.
there before Flow Monsters?
Yeah, they were, but Flow Monsters was a result of the TLNT chapter blowing up in Chicago.
Hmm.
So like all of us were gloving around the same period of time. Like I
I
know
see.
that Lit was a formed team before any of us were a part of a team.
Yeah.
You know, they were sponsored by Amazing. Like we watched their videos. We would run into them at festivals and trade with them, you know,
Yeah.
but Lit was definitely one of the first established teams in Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah. And is it more of like a camaraderie between the two teams, or is it kind of like?
No, for sure,
Yeah,
for
for
sure.
sure. Okay.
We used to go and hang out and kick it with them, like at
Yeah.
their lit backs. They would invite us. It wasn't like anything. There was no animosity. There was more animosity from lit and flow monsters towards TLNT.
Oh, why? Why?
uh, oh, all
This is
right.
so
So
juicy, man. We're getting some juice. I love this.
here's some tea. The reason that the Chicago chapter blew up was because Folly was talking shit to Lit, like Folly does. Folly likes to talk shit.
Yeah.
Uh, um, and so they challenged each other basically, in like a dick swinging contest. You know, they're like, "No, we're better than you. No, we're better than you."
Yeah.
And well, with TLNT at that point, it was like an international team.
Yeah.
You're challenging a local team with an international team. That's not fair.
Yeah.
Use your Chicago chapter, is what Lit said, which is fair. The Chicago chapter of TLNT was phenomenal, and Folly like basically threw us all into the bus and was like said in the chat or in the TLNT chat that like we would get bodied, blah 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 blah, and we were just all kind of insulted. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like
It's
you're
weird.
talking shit about
Yeah, you're
yeah.
talking
So
shit
it's like
about
all
that.
right, well
Mm.
the whole chapter, and so it's like all right, well the whole chapter just decided to like pack it up and leave and start our own team.
Yeah. Why do you think he did that? Like what
Um,
what is the goal
it's
there?
just you know like he had direct, he had
Yeah.
jest, Nemo. He wanted to use those guys to ensure himself a victory. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I think it was. Is like he doesn't want to take the loss because
Mm.
potentially, like you have some of the top glovers in the world on your team. You're gonna want to use them before you use like a local team or chapter
Yeah.
that not everybody has heard of, I guess.
It's so silly though,
But
right? Don't you
it is,
think?
it is dumb.
I
You
mean,
like let that ruin relationships just because you want to be like top dog. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I
Yeah,
totally get. I
you and
mean,
I don't see
I
eye to eye.
totally understand. I mean, I kind of understand. Like especially in that time where like IGC was a thing. Is like, man, like our team has some. Maybe I can't even be saying anything
Man, there
because
was a lot of beef.
there
There was a
was
lot of beef.
it
There's a lot of
was.
people flexing.
But that was what made like gloving exciting back in the day too. You know what I mean?
I agree. I agree.
But then I guess yeah. But it does seem kind of silly where if you have a chapter from from a state and then you're like, yeah, man, this team's gonna body you, but then people on that team is from that state, bro. Like, that's
Yeah,
interesting. I
for
didn't know.
real.
I did not know that. Okay. Who were part
Yeah,
of
it's a
the?
little tidbit of history for gloving.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
the team that came from that Flow Monsters, we ran shit. Like, not only did we throw competitions and like kickbacks, but we would go to competitions out of state. So like we would go to Minnesota. We would take first, second, third. Like
Mm,
we did that like 3 or 4 times. Like
mm,
where we would go out of state and just take 1 through 3 every single time. And it was incredible, dude. Like
wow.
the talent that we had on our roster was insane.
Give me
And
names. Give me names. Flow
that was
monsters.
so like Ruse. I don't know if you know like Bruce. I know it's like Soul. I don't know how to say his last name.
It's okay.
But the Glover name is Ruse, and then there is Robotech Caesar Fuentes, I think is his name.
Yeah.
There was Tadeo Montoya, um, Maddie Weber,
Glover name.
Forrest
Glover
Gearin,
names. Glover names.
Frostbite. Sorry,
Frost.
Frostbite.
Which one? Who was that? Who's the name?
That was Maddie. And then I don't remember Tadeo. So there's gonna be some people that I have their Glover names or their real names because
Yeah.
it's just been a while.
Got you. Got you. Got you.
Then I know there was Arjun Chawla. There was Forrest Gearin, Silver,
I think I seen
Silverio.
Yeah.
Forrest Gearin was a monster.
Yeah.
Like if you ever find any of his videos, you should look him up. He
For
was
sure.
definitely like he won a lot of the like first or second place when we would go to these competitions.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's so many people, dude. Like Floshi was obviously part of it. There was Joe Deed. I think he was a part of our team. Moon.
I remember Moon.
It's hard. It's hard remembering everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Been
that
so long.
just proves how big of a scene y'all had. And okay,
Yeah.
like okay. So here's a question. Like, who were like considered or generally considered like the top dogs of Chicago?
I feel like it kind of just depended on what team you were on because I feel like loyalty kind of
Yeah.
made you biased.
Statistically, though.
But like I will just say like Floshi and Delic. I don't know if you've heard of Delic.
I've seen the name.
But
Yeah,
Delic,
I've seen the name.
man, he is probably one of the best glovers I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Wow.
Like absolutely just a monster, and he is one of the most low key fire people you'll ever see. Like there was also Stasis. Stasis was great.
Yeah.
Door did a really good job in competitions. Jess would come down here and take competitions sometimes.
Josh, man.
Yeah, Diddy, Evan Clark. He would
Yeah.
come up from St. Louis. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then like I said, Forrest Gearin, he'd take a lot of the places too, and myself, get like top 3 at least. Never really won one, but
Gotcha. Wow,
I
that's
won
a
one.
lot of a lot of
Once,
names.
yeah.
Like it's interesting
Yeah.
that there was a lot of top dogs. There's a lot of talent happening, and it's not just one.
Well,
dude
the
winning
Heater
everything.
Bros too, actually.
The
I
Heater
forgot
Bros
them.
too.
The
Awesome.
Heater Bros too.
Yeah, that's a lot of talent. Yeah, that's a lot of talent from Chicago. I never really like. I would see these names. I mean, I knew people obviously like Stasis Door. They're mostly I think I've seen Froshi's name a lot too, but like I would always see Stasis because he was like always on GL, obviously Amazing Light sponsor, right? And of
Yeah,
course the
for
Heater
sure. And
Bros.
he
Yeah,
was, yep.
yeah, for sure the Heater Bros. And this gives me this is a good segue into um uh 30K had how do you see, he had described that the Chicago style felt like there was like a almost like a revolving door, almost kind of like a spinny. I don't know. Maybe maybe not spinny was not the word that he said, but that's the way that I interpreted it as. Is there was there ever like a signature Chicago style? Because when I think back to like Materia and like Stasis, like finger rolls, right? The more popular gloves, that's I can make sense of it. But I want to know from your point of view, like, did Chicago really have a signature style, or like, was it very
I feel like it's hard to do that, especially because it's like people don't realize this, but Chicago is like the population of Chicago is twice the population of the entire state of Hawaii,
two
just the
million?
city alone.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
just the city. Oh, just the city. Oh, I see. I see. Yeah. Holy crap.
So like when we talk about Chicago, it needs to be compared to like California or New
Yeah.
York. And like realistically, like New York doesn't have as much of a scene. Like
Right.
Chicago had an established scene, and it
Yes.
had a scene similar to that of California, where you had like these little subsects, these little like cliques of people. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So like Materia and the Trails for Snails, like that wasn't a very big team. You know what I mean? Like it
Mm.
was him and a couple of other people, and that was
Yeah.
it. But they had a very similar style. We need to look at Flow
Right.
Monsters. Like it was a lot of like ISO based tech with like seamless transitions, whereas like Lit didn't really have a similar style at all. Like there was like the Heater Bros who have a very similar style, but if you look at the Heater Bros to Stasis, it's nothing
Does
like.
not look
And
the
then they
same.
had
Yeah.
like Zergs, they had Fitty, they had Delic, and like none of those guys are like.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. Like Dora kind of took in, it seems like, the most from all of those guys. Like he has, you can see like a lot of the similar concepts that he does
Mhm.
from like Stasis, but also Delic, and then the Heater Bros, which is always cool to see when
Mhm.
you can see like where somebody got their style from.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that,
But
that that sounds so interesting and exciting, bro. Like I totally get it. Yeah, I guess sometimes I forget. Hawaii is just like, and you can get anywhere like 2 hours apart. You find all the glovers, and so it's like
mhm.
it's easier for styles to, really, it's easier for styles to get more popularized. Where like, yeah, like I don't even know like how big of a gap. I don't. You said like 70 hours. One time you said 70 hours away from a certain thing. I was like, what the hell does 70 hours look? 70 hours away from Hawaii look like? Yeah, well, that really puts things into perspective. Yeah, I would imagine that just the teams who are closely related, closely within the proximity of each other, yeah, they would have similar styles. But then, like to say that an entire state has a similar style, that's just my ignorance showing.
Yeah,
Wow,
well,
yeah,
no, it's
really
okay.
cool.
And then
That's really
like
cool.
the Chicagoland area, it's not even like Chicago has like 3 million people, right?
Yeah,
And then or two like two and a half, something like that.
yeah,
Um, but then the Chicagoland area has 10 million people. Like the suburbs alone, you know what I mean? So like you're not, when you look at that area, you're taking in just this massive population. There was another town
yeah.
that wasn't far from us that had another community. It was called Joliet, and I mean, there was a guy named Braden Zalapi. He had a little community down
Wait,
south in him.
I
Like,
remember that dude. What was his Glover name?
yeah, I
It
can't
started with a
remember, but he's a
Z.
cool dude.
I remember. I remember him.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was really
yeah, he's
cool.
cool.
Holy
Yeah.
crap. Okay, so how would the judges work? Like, I would
So
imagine. Yeah.
actually, that was my pride and joy. I liked to come up with like scoring systems and
Okay.
kind of like write down scorecards and try and like make the most objective scorecard I could every time,
Yeah.
because I felt like a lot of the amazing scorecards would miss out on something, or somebody would else would make one, and we just never really had something to go off of
Mhm.
as Glovers other than the IGC scorecard. And I think that was there was a lot of complexities missed within that, so I did my best to get that in place. And then we had like a decent amount of veterans in the community that we could rely on to judge. So, like the only problem is keeping it fair and balanced by, like getting one person from this team, one person from this team. You don't want to have like a full panel from Lit or a full panel
Absolutely.
from Lomo,
Right,
because
right,
then you have people voting one way or another based on
right.
teams.
That's cool. So you how many renditions of there were there like a different scorecard for Chicago?
Man, I mean, like I probably did like three, and that's
Yeah.
like just the final drafts alone. Like I had to
Yeah.
run it by people and ask them what they thought. I mean, I just feel like the gloving community has had so many in general, dozens and
Yeah.
dozens I've seen.
Yeah. Bro, I remember like Hawaii, like I would make a scorecard and then like guys from Lost Boys would have a scorecard. I think like every single competition had a different scorecard except for when we had the IGL one. I think that was like for the longest time the most consistent. I wasn't really a
I like that scorecard for sure.
yeah, it's not perfect, but it was the most like consistent. I guess it's like it had the least amount of complaints, at least from what I remember. Do you remember like the IGC
That's the
scorecard?
thing, though, is no matter what, people are going to complain.
No matter,
That is the
it
one
does
thing
not
I've
matter.
realized. You're going to get accused for rigging. You're going to get accused for biasness. So
Absolutely,
you just
yeah.
gotta you gotta do your best to like have multiple judges per match. That's
Yep,
like the
yep,
the biggest thing I think I've learned in throwing competition.
yeah.
Have as many judges as you can.
Were you familiar with the IGC scorecard around 2015, where it was like a point system or like a health bar system? You remember that? Oh
Yep.
man, that
Yep.
scorecard pissed me off, bro. I was like, bro, I'm
That's
like,
why I started making scorecards. I was
yeah,
like, fuck
like
this thing,
it
dude.
was so bad. Like, how can you be tallying up scores? You're not looking at the show, bro. Like, this is really bad design. But yeah, I love that. I can totally resonate with having multiple scorecards because yeah, I made multiple scorecards myself. Probably more than
I've been
three.
following when you made scorecards. I was paying attention to how you were doing it, trying to like keep that in mind when I was making.
Yeah, what's your definition of like the perfect score? Like, if your definition of what a perfect scorecard is?
I would say that you need to do it on a point system from like
Yeah.
1 to 5 or like 0 to 5, right?
Hmm.
Just to keep it
Oh,
simple, you could
zero.
do it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you could do like half point increments.
Oh
You know what I mean?
wow.
Even
Oh,
so, you can be
okay.
like, you could be a little bit more specific, so that way there's a variance and you have less of a chance of having a matching score on the other side.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yes, yes, yes.
and as far as the categories go, like I think that one that is overlooked constantly, which I think would be like presence.
Okay.
Like I think that presence is probably one of the more important aspects of show. And if Chicago has anything, I think that that's something similar that most established glovers in Chicago have, is
Yeah.
this idea of like it being a performance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it's not just like we're gonna do dials right in front of you the whole time. It's like
Right.
the use of space, the use of like I don't know,
Mhm.
just draw like making your show pop. Like I've
Yeah.
noticed in other places where it's like very like light. I don't even know how to describe it. Like punched over, light show centric. Like you're
Yeah.
trying to just kind of go through the motions.
Right. Right. Right.
But it's really like more in the smaller communities that haven't like had that exposure to like giving constant light shows and the meetups and competitions and stuff like that. But
Right.
I think Colorado also kind of has that from what I've noticed. They have like that really like crazy presence in their shows. Um, but yeah, I forgot what we were talking about.
No,
Oh
no,
yeah,
no.
scorecard. Sorry,
Scorecards.
I got off the track.
No, you're good.
Um, Categories would probably be presence, musicality. Um, I think when we talk about flow, like it's more so like transitions. I
Yeah.
think that transitions should be a category within themselves, like
Mhm.
how well your moves flow from one to the next.
Absolutely.
Um, and cleanliness obviously is very important,
Yeah.
but I think that the things that I broke down would be execution in
Right.
a
Right.
lot of people's
Yep.
but I think that it needs to be broken down a little bit further. And you
Interesting.
could even grade people based on categories. Like
Yeah.
their moves, like what like how well they did touch, how well they did, like
Hmm. Interesting.
um
Yeah.
liquid, or like you could throw all of that in and see like this is what you hit, this is what you hit. I didn't see any of this, and you did this well, but you're not really hitting this concept well. It gives the artist more feedback than just like your presentation was. You know what
Right.
I mean? Because like
Yes.
presentation is so many different things. Whether that be like the point of view and the use of space, like back to here. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like you're
Yeah.
not just hunched over. And there's so many ways to go about explaining this to somebody, but the more in depth that you can be, the more favors you're doing
Yeah.
for the artist and the viewers at the end of the day.
I think at the end of the day too, like a successful scoring system comes down to like, are you able to um not just give a score, but like to give like a reasoning as to why X Glover lost. And a scorecard kind of does that. It still does that. It's not the best as a judge explanation because that's the very popular
Mm.
thing right now, right? In competition is judge explanation. Um, but I think, yeah, just I mean, back in the day, bro, like we didn't even have any explanations, right? It's like, yep, this is what you got. Boom. You
I
never.
was I was a savage when I was a judge too. There was some people that would get like single digit scores, and I felt bad, but like
Yeah.
you came into a competition and you have been gloving for like 6 months. You gotta be like honest with these people. And
Right.
when it came to like back then, there was no explanation. It was just like on to the next
Nothing.
round. Like
Yeah.
get ready.
Yeah. And it's crazy. It's funny, kind of just going back to like the whole persona thing. Like, how many tutorials are there on doing moves versus tutorials on showcasing presence? There's like no, like how do you?
None,
There's none, bro.
none.
And then so I feel
You
like
can't teach that.
yeah,
You
you
can't
can't.
teach that.
I
That
mean,
the
you
only way you
could,
can.
you kind of could, but it's not really them, maybe, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like if you're trying to tell somebody like do more with your show, you
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like how do you give them more? They have to like see examples of it and then kind of create it for themselves.
yeah,
And like I feel like that being an intrinsic part of people's show is like
mhm,
natural to them. It's like that emphasis that you put on something, it's going to be completely unique to you, whereas like somebody tries to do that same move, it's going to be completely different. So like
right, right, right.
trying to emulate like sauce, swag,
Yeah,
the shit that you put on your show it's really hard to replicate that.
right,
Like
right.
you said, I don't think it would be yours if you were just trying to teach somebody how to do that.
That makes a lot of sense. And I kind of want to talk about like that whole on 30K's part of the Windy City Flow style, right? Because it's like in terms of like geographical location, because it's like I see it, like I still see like I still kind of see that like Stasis has that and like Material has that. Are they closer by any chance compared to other regions? No, that has nothing to do. Interesting.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no,
Interesting.
but I mean, I don't know. I think Materia's been gloving for about the same time as like all of us OGs have. So, like
Yeah.
I know that there might be like a year in variance between some of us,
Yeah.
or like 2 years by most. But I think that just watching each other online and seeing each other in person, it definitely had an influence. Like I've seen you talk about the circle move a lot. It took me so long to learn that,
Me
and the
too.
only reason I wanted to learn that was because of state. Like it
Yeah. Oh
took me
wow.
like a month or 2 months to learn that, but like
Yeah.
seeing Stasis online and trading with him in person at North Coast for like he gives like 7 minute light shows, dude. So like being blown away by the circle move like 20 times just in one light show. I'm just like, I need that. I need
Yeah.
that in my life.
It took me weeks to perfect that. People are getting it, dude, and it's more confusing teaching it. Like if you try teaching the circle move to somebody, it's like, okay, how do I word like the connectivity of the circle move? It's not. I've had to read. I've had to fix my way of explaining the circle move like a bazillion times, bro. It's like it's harder teaching it than it is doing it. But yeah, okay. Do you keep up with any of these with any of the older heads or any of the Glovers nowadays?
I still talk to the heater, or I talk to John every once in a while.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of pop my head in, say hi every once in a while, just the Chicago community. But like 30K and I have exchanged some messages. I kind of will share their events if they're throwing them, but
Yeah.
I mean, the OGs aren't really participating. Like I talk to Forrest every once in a while. He doesn't really glove anymore. A lot of the
Yeah.
people just don't glove anymore too. Like
That is
especially that suburban community. Like the only person that I've heard of gloving even is Silver, and I am not in touch with him.
yeah.
And like he was a pretty big part of that too. Um, but I mean, like Stasis and I never really like were friends or homies. Like
Mm.
I know of Stasis, cool, but I never really like we were just acquaintances. So it's
Mm.
like the community was so big that if you weren't like best friends with them, like the connection probably isn't there anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just exactly what you said. It's like that clicky nature, right? Of and that's what happens when the everyone's kind of just all sporadically apart, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. That's definitely gonna happen. Um, I guess we can segue into kind of like what the because after because you don't really keep up with much of the OGs, but then do you keep up with any of the like the you said you talked to 30K, right? Are there even like
Yeah.
newer heads in Chicago? Like is that a thing?
I mean, all right. So like there are people that have were in the earlier generations than like myself and some of the other OGs that like have kind of taken the reins on things.
Yeah.
Like 30K, Zach Stafford was one of them.
Yeah.
I know that Quentin Pastore, I think his name
Quantum.
is.
Yeah.
He's from the Chicago. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
from that area. Um, but there's not a whole lot of new faces from what I've seen. I don't go
Yeah.
to the kickbacks. I live out of state. I'm in like Michigan, Wisconsin, Oregon. Like I go all over the place. I travel. So it's kind of hard to keep up with, but they don't do enough for me to really like
Yeah,
see it,
it almost kind of seems like there were multiple people doing things all over the state at the same time, and then therefore that's why the community flourishes. That it's really hard for there it to kind of go back if there's only one portion of the community just doing something.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You need
that's
like people from and see that was the thing is like we had ties to Wisconsin and Minnesota, and
hmm,
Michigan, all of these places because we were the ones traveling. What I mean? We were going to these competitions and meetups and other places. So like we were connected to all the other communities that surrounded Chicago. So we were
hmm,
getting invites and we were talking to them regularly. These were people that were our friends. So like
yeah,
once that the access to those other communities kind of tapered off, like the meetups just became like 10 people, 5 people. I mean, there was one time where myself, I don't know if you know Captain G,
oh bro, that guy's a
Richie Adler.
monster, bro. That guy
That
is
was that guy was my
crazy.
roommate. That
Yeah,
guy was my roommate,
wow.
and we started a team together. My one of my other best friends, who was also another roommate of mine, Anubis or John Ruiz. We like he was it was just us three basically, and then we had um we would try and throw meetups, and it would just be us at the end of
Yeah.
the day, and like at that point it was like I'm not gonna keep doing this.
Yeah, I know. I totally get it, man. As you only have three people, it's not worth your time. Like to have to
Nah,
travel and host something. Yeah, man. And especially if you've witnessed like the height of gloving before in Chicago,
exactly.
it's like it's really hard to keep
It's
up.
soul crushing. You know what I
It
mean? Being a
is.
part of
Oh
that
man.
too, like being the leader of that and having those events, it was just like going from 100 plus people to like 3 people. I was just like, all right, like I gotta figure out something else to focus on because gloving is not it right now.
That's tough, man. It's kind of like how like in movies where like everybody like all the superheroes have to like do their part in order for something to happen. Like yeah, that's like what needed to happen with all of like the whole Chicago. Everyone needs to step up at the same time for it to feel like it was flourishing again and not just from like one
Yeah,
side. And then so like yeah,
and
maybe I
see,
mean if there are any like new Chicago glovers right now, sporadically, if they're in Chicago, you gotta start something right now,
Please,
right now, because it
please.
seems like that's
Pick
the
up the
fix.
torch. Pick
Yeah,
up the
pick up.
torch.
It's free for anybody to do it. Just do it, bro. That's the
You
thing.
can make money off of it.
You can. It's harder, but it's really hard. But you can.
It
Yes.
was really hard.
Yeah.
Um, but I miss it. I miss.
Right.
It was really hard for me even. Like I wasn't a sponsored Glover. I'm not gonna say like I was even like a super popular Glover.
Yeah.
I just had a huge passion for it, and I was connected to the people that were really
Right.
popular. And so like not having the clout behind like my promotional efforts kind of like once we started tapering off and the community started separating, I kind of had less and less power to do these things. What I
Yeah.
mean? I had the bankroll, I could fund everything, but like it was just a lack of interest. People didn't want to
Yeah.
drive out to the suburbs anymore if the kickbacks weren't going to be 50 plus people. And then it just kind of tapered out from there because people from the city stopped coming out, people from Wisconsin stopped coming out, but we couldn't offer a PM kickback every time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a lot of money. That's crazy.
It
And then
is. It is. Like it was a lot. It was one of the best nights of my life. We had such a great night, dude. Like 2 nights in a row because they stayed out
what?
here. We got a hotel for them. We got a hotel for them and like kicked it at their hotel and just got crazy at the hotel that night. And then we went to the kickback, went back to their hotel, got crazy again at the hotel, and then flew them to the airport.
Wow. Was that the original four that you guys wanted to bring, or did we have to swap out some?
Man, we had a long debate between the people that were paying because like I I am like a sucker for tutting. Like
Yeah.
that is my thing. I love tutting. So like I was like Gambit and J-Bake and Lullaby, like undebatably. Like there's no way. Like and Panda's just Panda. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Was
Like
Surge on that list?
I I fought for Surge, but again,
Yeah.
Panda
Yeah.
took the dub.
Panda was such a huge name back then. Not, I don't feel like
It
many
was.
people know about Panda nowadays. He
Or
might even be my
no,
cousin.
Cypher came out too, I think.
Oh, Cypher?
Cypher came out too.
What? Okay,
Yeah.
wow. Dude, I love Cypher. But
Oh, if he didn't come out then, he came out another time and we got to hang out.
oh, there are multiple times where California Glovers would come out there.
Man, we had Brian Lim come out
Oh, what?
with Rhapsode, with Tranquil. What was the blonde Glover? I forget her name.
Medusa.
No, I see her on Instagram every once in a while, but
What was her name? Like T.R. Trang?
nah, she's
Blonde.
like white and blonde.
Oh,
White and
Crystal.
blonde. Yeah, no,
Crystals.
no,
Gemma Jane.
no, somebody else. No, I know her.
Oh,
though.
Swirls.
Yeah, I think that's who it was.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna like I can't remember her name, but it was her and like Material came out. We had Tranquil, Blitzen, Rhapsode, Cipher, and we went out to eat. Took him out to, or he ended up. Brian Lim ended up taking us out to get Chicago style pizza. That was for like a Chicago boss. It's the first Chicago boss that we had had. It was awesome.
Yo, what? Dang, they
Yeah.
brought the whole squad there. What was Brian Lim like?
Suit.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a job for him. You know what I mean? He wasn't like partying, getting crazy. It was just another job. It seemed like.
Interesting. Yeah, man. Wow. What do you think? What do you think about like? And I maybe not just about Chicago, but what do you think about like the future of gloving?
That's a tough question. I battle with this quite frequently.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I feel with like the lack of beginners that we're seeing, And with how we're all getting older, the people that aren't as passionate for it are gonna, continue to stop participating. Like I've thought about it, but I'm too passionate for it, and I really enjoy like the friends that I've made just because of how much that I've traveled. Like I can't not be a part of this community.
Yeah.
I can't not play with my hands when I hear it. It's just ingrained in my DNA. So I mean, I don't know how long the OGs will carry the torch for, but we really gotta like figure out how to reignite the interest and love it. And I think that TikTok is doing a pretty good job at it. But I think that the power from this community still comes from the in-person meetups. Like
Absolutely.
that's something that we really need to prioritize more than anything. And, if, like you were saying, you're in the Chicagoland area, if you're anywhere realistically and you have a space, you can figure out a way to get somebody to like let you use their space, do it. Because it wasn't that hard for myself to go to this vape shop. Be like, hey, can we have an event here every Friday or every Saturday? And we'll split the profits from you from what we sell. And
Yeah.
you don't even have to split profits. You can just be like, hey, this will bring out 50 people that end up buying. So this will be
Yeah.
beneficial to do the same.
Yeah, I think that's the really important thing is to reaching out to like venues and being like, hey, like, can we do this thing? Like, you can take the profits, or it would be good, like, I don't know, some kind of marketing, getting the word out there for this venue. I mean, hell, Hawaii used to have sessions at like a boxing gym, bro. Mez had
That's
like,
cool.
yeah, and we would have competitions in the ring. It wasn't like an actual boxing ring, but then it was like a gym, and it would be in the ring. We called it Lights Out. This is way
That's
before
so
Lights
cool.
On. Yeah,
That's so
it
cool.
was hot as fuck though. I'm gonna
Oh,
tell
I
you,
bet. I bet.
but like it was such a vibe, bro. And I think that's the thing is you gotta, places and venues are willing to do these events, and they don't even have to know what gloving is, as long as it brings people to there and use it as advertisement, shout them out, post it on social media. It's just good, good putting their names out there. And I think a lot of
You know,
glovers are afraid to do that, right?
they're afraid to be social in general. We're all kind of
Facts.
we're all kind of antisocial. But
Yeah.
like the thing is, even if they're asking for money, it's not going to be much if it's
Right.
one night. You know what I mean? They might ask for $200. What is $200 split between the five people?
Yeah. Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And it depends on whether or not it's worth it. Like to me, it was worth everything. I had a deep passion for clubbing, and I wanted to continue like having that experience and being a part of that, being a catalyst of it. I had a dream of like being a sponsored Glover by Amazing.
Yeah.
How else do you get to those places without being involved and like pushing yourself to grow and learn and be a part of the community?
Yeah. That's it really is a bummer that like in order for like a scene or like or how do I like how do I say this? The touch of amazing, it was truly something, you know?
It
And
was.
like and
It was.
like in from my point of view, and this is maybe hindsight, but like from my point of view, it's like there were a lot of people who had that opportunity and did nothing with it. It's like they became sponsored glovers, but then like when I speak to people like you, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Trevor, right? They have this burning passion and desire to just grow this shit, and if only they had the touch from amazing, maybe the scene or maybe things would continue on in a different way. And it just sucks. It just sucks that I'm
Yeah.
talking to these leaders who they didn't quite, because I totally get it. You know what I mean? It's like if you didn't have, let's say, like a puppet go to like a sesh or something, right? I could see it being harder for like the other for other GGN leaders to make that sesh successful because they don't have the reach and pull that I did, and that's totally something that I
Exactly.
saw, bro. Because people would be traveling, bro, to Hawaii and you know they'd always be asking like, oh, like is Puppet here, like is Puppet here, you know what I mean? And like from my end it's
I
it's
get it.
it's from my end it kind of sucks, bro, because it's like, you know, Hawaii has all
You
those
wish you
different
could share
talent.
that.
I
Yeah.
wish I could share that. Yeah, I wish I could. Well, I mean, like I wish that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. I'll be completely honest. It's just a weird spot to be in when you hear that. You know what I mean? It's like I wish that like they wouldn't be asking that question and they could be asking, "Hey,
See,
is this other Glover here?" You know?
I have had really weird instances, especially for who I am in this community, where they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, it's Iteen," and I'm like, "That is not like we're Glovers." you
Yeah.
know
True.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like we
Yeah.
don't need to be placing each other on this pedestal. Like I
Yes.
think that there is a lot of really, really, really insane talent out there that is just not recognized because we do this thing where we like we'll hype up a certain individual that like they deserve the recognition, but
Absolutely.
that's just kind of how the algorithm works, where like this one person posts and then the other married. So we have like I said, Delic. Most people don't know who Delic is.
Yeah.
This dude is one of the only people to get 1,000 likes on a video.
What? Yo, that's an
Yeah,
achievement. That's crazy.
yeah, like
It's a rare
he's
badge.
incredible, incredible, and most people don't know who he is because like they just there are these bigger names out there, like yourself, like Jest, like, and it's not your guys' fault, but we kind of do this thing with the algorithm where like it just boosts everybody's posts up to the top that are, you
Yeah.
know, super popular, and nobody really does the scrolling through Glover's Lounge. Like, I don't know about you, but back in the early, beginning of gloving, like I was spending tons of time in Glover's Lounge,
Yeah.
tons of time on YouTube watching Amazing,
Yeah.
like LOL, like all of that. Like it was, just there was so much content to be discovered that was always evolving and it was always new. And you had
Yeah.
to really like keep up with what was coming out in order to like be the best Glover you
Yeah. I feel
could.
like
And now
no, go
that
ahead.
might be what's kind of contributed to the fall of gloving in of itself, is that we have so many diverse skill sets now, and there is no like definitively best
It's
person.
tough.
Like, you
Yeah,
can't
it's tough.
you
Right.
can't be the best. To
Yeah.
me, in my opinion, like you can't be the best at this hobby anymore.
Yeah, there's not a
Like
lot of
people
things
will sit here and
happening.
try and argue for it, or argue that like Vex or whoever is the best Glover, but like you could point to somebody that is doing things that Vex can't do. Like Sharkbait is insane.
Yeah.
Sharkbait's fucking crazy. But then there's also like Materia who does flails that none of them
Nobody has.
do.
Yeah.
And like you're like you or Jest or any of you guys, you all do things that the others can't do.
Yeah.
So we're kind of looking at this as like an objectively like this is the best, this is the best, this is the best. But when we were first coming up, like if you could do all of the concepts, you were probably one of the best glovers on the
Yeah.
planet. Just because like there was not much diversity between skill sets. So like you could kind of interweave all of them into one show and execute it really well, and you would be one of the best glovers on the
Yeah. It's about full package, right?
planet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's really an interesting point. That really like, it's like, yeah, everyone's skill set is so drastically different. I mean, like when I'm looking at like the modern like top dogs, when I look at like BMO and when I look at like Infinite, just based off statistics, right? Just based off statistics,
Yeah.
it's like their styles are so drastically different. But then like when it comes down to it, it's like they're more full package than others, right? And then like yeah, like
For sure.
it's not like a thing where like in MMA or like in UFC there's a definitive this person beat that person. So it's art, right? And so you're getting judged, and so everything is so subjective that it's really hard to determine like the goat of all time, right? The best of all time. It's really hard. Everyone's got
Exactly.
different answers. No,
Exactly.
no. There's multiple names that you can throw out there. Yeah, and that's what I think it makes it
And
a little
people
bit
do that with
exciting.
sports too, but
That's true.
it's a little bit easier to do with sports
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
be objective because there is like accolades that you can't get with gloving.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're getting like we'll look at basketball where it's like you have like 10 all-star selections, you have 5 MVPs, you have,
Yeah.
2 defensive team selections. Like there's things that you can point to, like metrics that are other than just this guy beat this person or this
Right.
guy won this competition. It's like it doesn't really mean shit in gloving because a lot of people don't even participate in competitions.
Not only that, but the metrics they don't really like mean a lot either. Like if it's like you're getting judged by like, it's okay when you like look at like like an IGC, right? And then if you were to like look at who judged that match, like who are all the judges that are judging this high value match? It's like who are those judges? We don't even know. They might not even be good. Like what is the value in winning a or what is the value in winning a match if the judges are nobodies, right? And it's all subjective. You like it's all
See,
not
to me, it's not even about nobodies. It's like, how do they value each point?
right.
That is
Right.
subjective in of itself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, I am very critical when I judge.
Yeah.
Like each point holds a lot of weight, especially if you're doing a scale to 5. You know what I mean? Unless you're doing a scale to 10, then you can be a little bit more liberal with your points. But like,
Yeah.
each point is 20% on a scale to 5. You know what I mean? So like you really have to like understand that, if this person did not have very good transitions, then their execution suffers greatly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like depending on what metrics you're using. But that 20% could be a make or break. And I'm not gonna give somebody a 4 or a 3 just to be generous. Like that's not how I judge. And I feel like a lot of people do that where they're gonna be courteous to the person and not give them
Oh, I
the
hate
lower
that.
score.
I hate
You know what I mean?
that, dude. There's too many
So
benefit of the doubts
like
that happen in judging,
above
right?
everybody's above a 50 on this person's scorecard. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But the people that are great are like at 100. It's like you can't you have to go below 50 at some point. Somebody was not like at that 50%
Right. Yeah, no, I love that, bro. Like, yeah, I'm really nice. I think, like, when it comes down to like tutorials, YouTube, just like my old persona. But when I'm a judge, bro, I'm an asshole.
Same.
And I think you need
I
that,
mean,
right?
I'm kind of an asshole outside of being a judge too. But, it is whatever.
But yo, Chris, bro, I really appreciate you, man. Is there anything that you think that we may have missed during the whole, just talking about the Chicago scene? Are there any like big events that you wanted to talk about or anything?
um, I mean, I feel like we covered all the bases for the most part.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, bro. Well, I appreciate your time, man, for real. And
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
big shout outs to you, man. Just based off everything that you told me, you're a passionate member of the community who, I mean, still to this day, you still glove, man. And if it's like without people, without you, then gloving will probably never had seen its glory days. So really appreciate you, man.
I appreciate
Everything
that.
that you've done,
Yeah.
man, for real.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Same to you, man.
I appreciate you, man. Okay, all right, bro.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
All
Take
right.
care,
Yeah.
brother.
You too. Peace.
Peace.